Time for all things inside rodeo with two of the greatest minds and one special guest. It is Tommy Joe Lucia, Kendra Santos. Time for the No Spin.
Well, welcome to Las Vegas, Nevada, and episode number 37 of No Spin Rodeo. We're doing the Las Vegas Rally. All of you in Commons, if you were born to a middle-class family, come over here and enjoy the rally with us. We're going to rally on rodeo today. Rally on rodeo today. Good morning, Kendra.
Good morning.
And welcome the shadow of Kendra. She talks about you a lot.
I'm just the driver.
You're the driver?
Yeah, drive Miss Daisy around.
This guy, because Kendra probably won't say it, he's a legend in bulldogging. Ote Berry with us. I could go through, I think it's 6 world titles. Is that right, Ote? Something like that?
4.
4. Okay, 4 world titles. But I remember the thing that I thought was the cool. Is it correct you won 20 go-rounds in your career, and 10 of those were the 10th round?
Actually, I think it was 7 in the 10th round, but yes, I won 20 go-arounds over 14 years. And
Wikipedia is killing me. Well, but you deliver in the 10th round. Like, is the 10th round, like, important to you?
Very important. All I ever wanted was to have a chance on the last round, whether it was to win the average, to win the world, to be in contention, but it just seemed like I won it the first year it came to Vegas, 1985, and I was so confident in this building and knew, 85 was a roller coaster. First year I ever made the finals, first year in Vegas, and I started out slow, but finished strong. I placed in the 7th round, won the 9th and the 10th round, won the average, and all the frustration that was building up all week long of not having won any money, and then having it all come together at the end, it was very satisfying, and it gave me the confidence in this building. It seemed like every year when I stepped in, I knew to be patient. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and just to have yourself in contention to put on a buckle at the end of the week and be patient and know that, and I was just confident here. The longer it went, the more confident I got.
You know what I think would be cool are 2 questions up front, since it's year 39, I guess, because we were in Arlington in 2020, so it's year 39 for Vegas, but at 40 years ago, the first one here. I would love to ask you 2 things, because I know one of them. One, the difference in the cattle, in the steers, and the other one is, we all take for granted sold out. It wasn't like that in 1985.
Well, on paper, I think it was actually sold out. I don't know if it was.
But you can say on paper anything's sold out.
Yeah.
If there's nobody in the building, it ain't sold out.
Right, and the upper deck in 1985, you could have shot a shotgun up there and not hit 2 or 3 people. So, yes, the crowds have really came on, been a lot better in Vegas. Going back to your first question on the cattle, the first year here we run 5 pins of steers. They all went twice. Now I think they run 3 pins, but they tried to have a little bit of everything. And we had a pin of steers from Reg Kessler in '85 that probably weighed maybe close to 700 pounds and just quite a bit bigger. And the cattle have changed here over the years. I know now they try to pick steers that run real hard just so they can take the start in this building. We actually run fresh steers here once for sure, maybe twice, and it's pretty tricky. The start, trying to see the steers and no longer than the arena is, it put a little more, I don't know, maybe, in my opinion, put a little more cowboying into it and horsemanship, and it's really tough. If you make one mistake in this building, it's the yellow buck and shoots.
Yeah, let's ask poor Tanner Malone about that last night.
Well, and if you're breaking out of the box, what would you say? Is it 5 seconds to the yellow shoots if you weren't to get off? You know what I'm saying? If you weren't to get down?
I think quicker than that, because
quicker than that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say, Tyler Wagasback run one as far as you could run one last night, and made a great run on the ground and was 5.6. So if Scott Gunther, first guy out, missed the barrier a little bit, and he was at the buck and shoots, I'm going to say in 3 seconds.
3 seconds. So
yeah,
imagine that. You know, those of us that have a hard time putting cream in our coffee, you've got to nod, score the animal, and get down on him, and you've got 3 seconds just to get a hold of him, really, or you're done.
Yeah, because I mean, the guy that won the round last night, Will Loomis, run a steer basically to the middle of the arena and threw him in 3-7. So, I mean, by the time he had threw the steer, his horse had already hit the back end and turned. So, you know, it may be quicker than 3 seconds from box to buck and shoots here on a, you know, horseback.
Now, do you think rodeo is better, that we've taken some rodeo out of rodeo? And what I'm saying is, you're talking about the first time you were here, they ran fresh cattle. They had cattle that weighed over 700 pounds. That's rodeo. You get a hold of them, there isn't a plan going into it, really, right? I mean, your plan is to figure out what your plan is when you get a hold of them.
Right, and you know, I think there was a little more maybe technique back then where you had to on steers that big. And what a lot of people don't realize, when we came here in 1985 the first time, I'm saying 99% of the timed event guys had never been in an arena this small. When I first started rodeoing, that we always kind of differentiated the amateur associations from the pros, because in the pro rodeo you had to set and score and see, you know, and we had never been in a building this small and never taken a start that quick before in our lives. And so you could go back and watch it, and we thought we was, you know, really doing something. And you watch those runs compared, especially not just the steer wrestling, the team rope and the barrel racing. It has gotten so fast out here, so blistering fast. But it's been here long enough now, and there's kids that's grown up practicing and doing this. You know, there never used to be guys. 15 headers here can get it on them quicker than maybe 30 years ago, you know, and every one of them can do it now. It's just they've adjusted to this. But also, like I said, okay, if you move this NFR, say back to Arlington where it was in 2020, but use the whole venue, that whole baseball stadium for the arena, and made it big, and run 600 or 700 pound steers and run 250 pound calves, and put a score out there 20 or 30 foot to where you had to, you know, I don't think that it would look as good the very first year that it went there, you know, but if it was there for
But
10,
do you think that's better watching than how fast can you do it?
Me personally, yes.
Well, that's because that's the way you did it.
Yes, I think the fans, if you went back to do that, I don't think the fans would enjoy it as much. Fans love seeing a 3-second steer wrestling, a 3-second team rope, and a 6-7 second calf roping. If you went back and roped 270 pound calves and put a score out there and you know, 11-5 won the go around, yeah, you'd get a few hand claps, and
It's hard to go back.
You know,
It is hard to go back.
the fans have gotten used to seeing the fast, quick action, and in the Thomas and Mack, you're right on top of everything, you know, and it's great for the fans to feel like they're part of it. They're right there, and when we went to Arlington, I liked it. I liked watching it, but it was kind of far away from the action, and it seemed more like a rodeo than a hype NFR.
Yeah, but I don't completely agree. I mean, I can see where your old school guys say, well, real rodeo is the fans got to be 700 feet from the action. The one thing that I think, you stack fans right on top of the action, they feel the intensity much, much more. They feel what you're feeling when you back into the box when they can spit on you.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to feel that. I'll tell you, I went to a boxing match, you know, and I would watch boxing on TV, right? It's boxing. You ever been to a boxing match?
I have not.
Okay, when those guys hit each other and you hear it, it changes your whole perception of the game. Because you're like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like, well, boxing's pretty cool. So I think Wild West, that's why I like the Pendletons and the Cheyennes and the stuff that show a flavor of the old school rodeo. Let us see a different type of competition. And then you're coming in here where it's rocket fast. You know, but so what we do with our guest hosts, everybody, they come on and they sit with us the entire show and talk about different things. But I want to, you're still an ambassador in the sport. Kendra, I want us to talk a little bit about what you're doing today. You know, you've got the Junior World Finals, right? You're steer wrestling, that's yours. But, you know, you're a mentor, you have qualifiers, kids are important. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity since 2017. Las Vegas Events and I worked out a deal, and we brought steer wrestling to the Junior World Finals. And every year we've kids 18 and under as of January 1st, and we put on qualifiers all year long. And I think this year we was in 16 or 17 different states with qualifiers. We had 21 qualifiers throughout the year, and we bring kids, the top 40 kids out here, and every year we've tried to. In 2017, I think our payoff was $50,000, and proud to announce that this year, in 7-8 years, we're going to have a $100,000 payout. So, bringing 40 kids out here, competition, you know, against. I think it helps. It helps. It's just a stepping stone. Going, you know, when I was in, you know, I hear so many people ask and tell me, "Gosh, I wish you had this when I was, you know, a kid or steer wrestling," and we all think that. So it's just another platform. I never seen kids other than basically from my state and local community. You know, when I was, you know, when I went to the high school finals in 1980 at Yakima, Washington, I knew a handful of kids, maybe from the neighboring state or something, but you know, you didn't see that kind of competition until you got maybe to the National High School Finals or National Little Britches Finals or something like that. And now we're having these competitions several a year, and these guys are getting to know kids from other states. And for example, we let the National High School Finals count as a qualifier, and the IFYR in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and we give those kids opportunities to see each other a lot more, and I think it just helps the competition when they, you know, they might be a big fish in a small pond where they're from, but then when they get out there against some of the others, and I really think it's helped step the competition up. We're very proud that our first champion in 2017, Bridger Anderson, is a two-time national finalist, and Cash Robb, Tucker Allen this year that are in the steer wrestling. They both come through our qualifiers, and I went up last night. I was so proud. Cash split second and third in the round, and I went up and seen him and his folks, and of course they were tickled to death the first year that he's run here, and his mom told me, she thanked me, she said, you helped with this. You know, he went through your competition and been, you know, he had a card when he was 12 years old so he competed for 6 years in the Ote Berry Junior Steer Wrestling, and it's been really cool to see that progress from the first time he showed up, you know, barely having enough strength to throw a steer down, but he had a lot of try, and he just, to watch those guys get better year after year, and then come here and not only, you know, get better, but he started winning and started dominating the Ote Berry part of it, and, you know, and just 2 or 3 short years ago, he was competing, you know, here at the Junior World Finals, and now he's at the big show. So it's very cool to see and watch.
I think something else that's cool that for me to have seen is that just as Tyler Wegesbach lived with you and you went and you hauled him and went and hazed for him and stuff, now there's a very similar relationship between Tyler Wegesbach and Cash Robb. It's pretty cool. And the other thing I'll say, this junior steer wrestling tour has been really fun to watch him because he loves nothing like he loves to wrestle steers, and then when that's over, it's like, oh man, but this, it's like a giving back thing, but for him, it combines his 2 favorite things, which is bulldogging steers and helping young people. And so it's like everybody wins, but people don't realize on a year-round basis that I sit there and watch him type points and standings and different things and sponsor letters and things with his 2 index fingers. That's how much he loves to do this. So
I did take typing in high school. I just wasn't a very good student, I guess.
I took typing in high school, but I convinced my typing teacher to type all my papers, and she did. So now, real quick before we need to jump on into all the other stuff, but I'm going to say something. It's known in the industry, if you don't know it out there and you're new to rodeo, but the Bulldoggers, they're a brotherhood. Everybody knows that. They're thick with each other. Why do you think that is? That well, for one, they're all big. I mean, that's the problem. So I'm a producer. You got to really think hard about pissing off the Bulldoggers, because you didn't just piss off one. All of them are coming, and I can't whip one of them. So why do you think there's that brotherhood, and are you cultivating that with these kids?
I think the kids are cultivating it, and I've got one name I'm going to throw out there that I know from the time when I first started. And, you know, back in the day when things weren't right or people had a problem, you know, like I said, you might have went out back behind the barn and settled it. Well, who better than to start with is having your friends or being a tight-knit group than the steer wrestlers, because we was all the big guys. But when I first started, you know, Roy Duval was the man, and in my opinion, still the greatest of all time. And when people wanted something done, you know, they went to Roy. And, you know, we was the first year we came here, they wanted to strike over something. I don't even remember what it was now. And Roy said, this is not the time or place to do it. And what Roy said, people listened to. And, you know, I know one year we were at Colorado Springs, and they were talking about shutting down, you know, not making a calf rope in a standard event, having it optional or whatever. And the calf ropers came to Roy, and we just shut the slack down in Colorado Springs and drove to the office and busted in the meeting. Roy Duval leading the charge, but that's the way it's always been. Everybody, you know, I think it started with him. Everybody respected him so much and his opinion, and you know, if we put our foot down and Roy told you, you know, you're not going to run a steer here, you know, I wasn't about to cross that man, and nobody else was, you know.
Because he was dangerous. That's why.
But that's it. I think that's why we're such a close-knit bunch that, you know, when you wanted something done, you stuck together, and you know, right's right and wrong's wrong, and he pretty much, in my opinion, stood up for everything that was right, and it wasn't just for the steer wrestlers. He loved rodeo as a sport, and he stood up for all the cowboys, and if it was good for one, it had to be good for all.
That story about, everybody should know that forever. I was there that day in Colorado Springs when Roy stopped the slack at Colorado Springs. Roy Duval saved calf roping. In case the young people don't realize that, it's true. They were going to go with the pick 5 thing. That was happening, and I went with them to what I remember is that it went up the hill to the hotel. That's
wherever the meeting
but
was.
It was a throwdown.
But it looked like a grapes of wrath. I would guess you say there was from the arena at Colorado Springs to the office several miles up the interstate. And
solid trucks.
we stopped the slack, and here's pickup trucks with 15 guys in the back, riding in the back end of the pickup, and trucks and campers, and we just made a beeline up there, and the judges are at the rodeo like, hey, we're going to turn you out. And Roy said, no, you ain't turning nobody out. When we come back, we're going to compete here. And basically every calf roper, steer wrestler, team roper, and Roy said, you know, if you guys compete while we're gone and you try to, you know, you'll have to answer to us. and nobody wanted to cross that line. Nobody stepped over that line. So they shut her down, and the judges didn't argue.
Roy the mob boss.
Roy
right?
told them what was going to happen, and that's what happened.
Well, now let me ask you one other quick question before we jump on. And you may not want to answer. But I can't imagine that of all the Bulldoggers that come through, that there hadn't been one that was a little weird, one that didn't fit in, one that really wasn't a club member, right? Because you get the guy. So are you willing to say, yeah, oh, X, Y, and Z, he never really was a part of the club?
I'm not sure if I could single any one person out. Sure, there was a lot of people that were different, but I think just for the respect of the steer wrestlers, of the brotherhood. You know, we, like I said, we are a pretty tight-knit group, always was, and I believe they still are. I don't know if it's quite, you know, the formats of these rodeos have changed so much. Used to, you know, we'd go to Denver and stay 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever, and move on to Fort Worth, and then move on to San Antonio. And gosh, in later years when I wasn't competing and hauling Tyler Wagisback and Rowdy Parrott and some of those guys around, and we'd pull in, and you know, they run 2 or 3 steers and we were gone. And you know, I went all winter and didn't see but the same guys that was in your group, you know, and there was so many guys you didn't see until either spring or summer when it kind of opened up and you started going to other rodeos. So it's definitely changed. I think the camaraderie's still there, but maybe not quite a tight-knit group as used to be, but I think they still pretty close.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Kendra, we kind of usually at our NFR rally, we're calling it, No Spin, kind of do a recap of the perf. Do you want to jump into round one? You know, there were a lot of, it's all, in rodeo, the first performance, even here, is a dress rehearsal for the show. It just, that's the reality of it. You know, there's 200 plugins and stuff that you don't realize this plug's not working. You don't realize the 3 mics aren't on. You don't realize that stuff till it goes live. And that's when everything's flushed out. So we'll talk a little bit about the overall, but first night, jitters, people nervous, everybody competed, they got through it. You want to kind of start with the top, and I'll throw my comments in along the way?
I thought that, I mean, pretty cool to see a rookie in Western Timberman jump out and win the first round of his first NFR, right?
A bunch of rookies did good.
A bunch of rookies did great last night. That was awesome. It seems like a great time to just take half a step back and tell the rest of the story about the bareback riding last night, right? That there was a horse that was supposed to be in the draw that wasn't. I mean, why not? Why not just, let's just say it, because it feels like nobody's really talking about it. So Corco Rodeo's 522 he got hurt in the, you know, while he was being loaded, and so he didn't buck last night, and it was supposed to be a rematch with Cooper Cook.
Which probably would have placed pretty high on the round.
It was set up to be spectacular. They won Idaho Falls together, 88 points this summer. So a lot of people were anticipating that matchup. This morning, you know, given the news that horse was out, it was like, well, what happened? So my understanding is that this morning I couldn't help myself. I talked to Jim Corco, I talked to TJ Corco, I talked to Dr. Greg Veneklassen, and the good news is it was a minor cut by his eye. He got sewed up last night. Leslie Schur has been the NFR veterinarian for 30 years. She stitched him up, and she was out there. I was talking to Greg this morning, and he had just spoken to her. She was sitting there looking at the horse and said, I'm looking at him, look at her. She's fine. She could buck right now. So that's the good news. And so TJ confirmed that. One thing Jim said that was sort of interesting is he said, at the ranch, we sort our horses afoot, and our horses respect that. And you know, when people are horseback popping whips, things can get out of hand fast, which we were talking driving over here this morning.
Yeah, I used to help a stock contractor, and
just say Dan Russell.
And so Corco, I heard him telling Kendra, you know, them guys on horseback and they got those flag whips and stuff. He said that like riles their horses up and gets them, you know, jittery and goosey and spooky. And then I said, well, in defense, when I used to help Dan Russell, you didn't do anything afoot. You know, he wanted to sort everything horseback, and he said, you get on foot, and that's when they get wild and jittery. And
well,
so,
it depends on how you condition them.
Yes, that's exactly right. So, you know, their horses are conditioned to be worked afoot. Some of them are conditioned to be worked to horseback. So, you know, it's hard to, I'm sure, if you're the, you know, back there in the pens to do it, you know, I don't think you could take all the orders if people put orders in. I want mine sorted foot. I want mine horseback.
Well, yeah, you could. This is the Super Bowl of rodeo. Why can't you sort them that way? And here, there's a little more to this story. Kendra, you might.
Well,
you want to finish your part?
I would love to say that TJ confirmed last night was the hopper pen, and Tater Tot will be out Tuesday night, round 6, when the hopper pen goes again. I asked because I was curious if they would be paid for last night, because I thought they were paid by the out, and in fact, no. There's a flat fee for showing up, and so TJ said that the flat fee when you have a horse or bull here is $11,258, whether they back once or twice. If that animal is here, that's what you get.
Well, and they get round money too. They get prize money per round.
If you do well.
If your horse, well, you get 30% of what the cowboy wins. So if your first place bareback horse, that stock contractor at the buckle ceremony is going to get a buckle and a check for 10 or 11,000.
Right.
So the Corcos missed out on that. Now we want to make sure that this is clear. The animal wasn't hurt significantly.
No.
It was a superficial wound, but you don't want a superficial type thing in the NFR on television. I get that. They've got some guys on young horses back there in the pens. I don't know if it was when they were sorting that horse up for the perf or earlier moving them around, but they're moving them on horseback, and I don't think it's fair to say, like you mentioned, Ote, that's necessarily the wrong way to do it. However, I think if it's my stuff and I know it's going to bother my animals, I'm going to throw a fit and I'm going to say, you aren't going to do that. But this isn't the only case. You know, there's a stock contractor with a bull here, Kenny Behringer. He had a bull that they went to push down the pins, and he jumped the alley fence, so they kicked him out. They said, he's, they probably have some code for that, unsafe or unfit. Well, literally, I seen a video of them, that bull's eating hay out of Kenny's hand, standing there, and probably the same deal. Kenny probably sorts everything on foot. They're looking at this horse. It's a small alley. They're trying to get away. So there's definitely an issue there. Now, I'm getting paid. I thought this was interesting. As soon as they slap that NFR number on their hip, as soon as the glue hits the hide, they get that check for $11,000. So no matter what happens, they get, so if you're bringing 20 head of horses or 10 head of horses, that's $115,000. That's what makes this work for the stock contractors.
The thing that's interesting is okay, this is our Super Bowl. The rules, everything's going to be tight. And as we both know, production is down to the second. And so sometimes the rules seem almost excessive, which we might as well just segue into the fact that the review and the replay was used last night and speak of that for a minute. But on the rules, we're sitting there watching the opening. There were all these, especially fun to watch the guys that are here at their first NFR. But I'm watching it, and what I'm saying to Ote is, Yaqua rides in for the Cowboy Grand Entry in a buffalo coat. Okay.
Well, there was a mule in the Grand Entry
okay.
too.
Well, these are the things. I mean, last year, Hayes Waite rides in the first night with full pirate paraphernalia because of the hazing in the bull rider locker room. I mean, it's super fun for fans, but I'm saying to him, how much is Yaqua going to have to pay because he wore his buffalo coat as a, cool for his native heritage, but it covered up his back number. I promise you, he had to be fined. We, as humans, we're like, oh, isn't that neat? Kind of cool for the fans. But then, by the same token, where's the line? You kind of have to be pretty black and white here, right?
Well, I just think there's a lot that goes into this that when you're sitting at home, or even us sitting there thinking, that's stupid, why'd you fine him? I get that. But earlier on a podcast, we talked about throwing picking strings, right?
Yes.
Well, the second half of that story was pretty soon all the sponsors start hitting up all the cowboys to throw something in the stand.
Like a T-shirt or something.
Well,
Right.
You know, if you're going to get to throw I'm making it up, a Smarty Pickin' string in, that's really good PR and a sold out deal. Well, you got to shut that stuff down. Next thing you know, they're going to be pitching out koozies, and you know, and so I think there's a lot to it.
I think when the first time that happened, from my understanding, it was maybe even in Oklahoma City. I think Leo Camarillo threw a rope in the stands, and the question, you know, everybody thought, man, that's cool, and he was actually trying to give it to a certain person, which I think they got it, but they're like, okay, what if somebody's sitting there not paying attention, and that comes, and the end of the picking string hits them in the eye, and
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So that was such an issue for legality, I guess, is you know, some of that stuff's cool, but yet it wouldn't be cool if they threw a picking string in the stand and it did, you know, the tail of it come and knock your cornea loose or something like that.
Well, no, I think
understand
you're
that.
right. Now, I did want to, we've got Tea Garden. Nomies, he's back with us. Thank you for coming, Greg. But I did want to, because I kind of want a segment of this live rally to be when we find social media posts, right, that are, you know, and so before we leave the Corco deal, I was going to read this. I don't know if you want to put it up, but, you know, they put it out there that this happened on Facebook, and I love seeing that stuff. And the interesting thing is sometimes that stuff crosses the line because you're emotional, you're personal. You know, we've seen it in other sports where pro athletes' moms jump on there and say, Billy Joe ain't catching footballs for you anymore because you ain't starting him. And Billy Joe goes, shut up, Mom. I'll take the check and sit on the bench. So, you know, we'll kind of pay attention to social media. But yeah, that's what happened with Tater Tot. But I'm glad to hear that he's up, got another chance at some
Are
prize
you
money.
reading the post or
Well, I can read it. I don't know if he's getting it up, but basically, the post said the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association that can't get horses' names or numbers right also can't seem to get adequate help in the back pins. And I don't know that that's fair. 522 Tater Tot, not Tater Tor, so they must have misspelled, but we've had our links along the way. Got injured today while being sorted for won't be bucking in round one. And so what we try to do in No Spin is give some background to that story, right? And, you know, I think there's something to be said that they're sorting horses with horses. And obviously, maybe the Corcos never walk in a pin.
Well, and as always, there are at least two sides to every story. And I'm pretty sure they don't have gunsels in the back pens loading at the NFR for efficiency's sake. So, you know, things happen.
So what now? Repeat that? Repeat what you just said, please, if you don't mind.
Well,
Did you say you're pretty sure that they have zero gunsels back there?
I would be surprised at this level of this event if you would put people who don't work with livestock every day back there.
But there has been times, not necessarily here, but all over, where budget dictates the quality of the people back there, and sometimes you don't get the very best.
Well,
'Cause
when
the
you're
budget
talking
could
about this
dictate
level
that.
of bucking stock, I think they might bring Roy Duval to town to stop it if people, I mean, you know, I'm talking about people like, you know, the Tyler Crafts of the world who, you know, he works all day, every day at the Calgary Ranch as a pickup man here. That kind of level of cowboy, surely we have people who know bucking stock. I mean, this horse hit a panel being loaded last night. I feel like that's something that
But do you
wasn't there
think
to
we're
see.
the only ones that have done enough thinking about this to say maybe some of them should be sorted on ground? I mean, where's some of the logic in this, if that's the case? I'm not saying that the horseback guys are bad.
Well, what's interesting too is obviously we don't have time to have every stock contractor load his own animal.
You can lose that, Greg.
You know, we're not going to load. Okay, TJ Corco, you come load your horse, and then we're going to have Pete Carr. You come load.
I know. I agree with that.
They used to have, and I'm sure they still do, a livestock superintendent that basically that they hire. I know way
John
back
Barnes
in the day.
has been it forever, right?
John, yeah, it's
Yeah.
John's
Is that who-
crew that's on horseback.
Okay.
Here, by the way.
Well, I mean, because I knew back in the day it used to be Sonny Linger and maybe Ted Groney and whoever. I wasn't sure that it was John Barnes now, but But yes, he should. I mean, I guess maybe that falls back on him, that he should make sure he has competent workers working for him or helping him, and I guess that's where you do reach out to different stock contractors, and maybe they did, I don't know, but maybe the Corcos say, hey, from now on, if you don't mind working our horses, you know, on foot or on ground, and take your whips and flags and throw them under the trailer or something,
Yeah,
you know.
and nobody's saying that they're doing a bad job. I think that the talent level probably back there is not moronic. But I'm just saying this wasn't an isolated incident. I gave you an example of a bull that's been kicked out of the game that was eating out of a guy's hand
Right.
5 minutes later.
Imagine, you know, this is not, imagine getting one here. That can be a lifetime in the making to get one here. It's like qualifying. I mean, it's somewhat similar to, that's your baby. But like, okay, Creek Young qualified for this NFR and doesn't get to be here, which I did ask, and he and Dustin Bouquet each get 5,000. Everybody else, gets the 10. But imagine the disappointment. So for a stock contractor, your baby gets to Cowboy Town, gets to the big show.
Well, you haul them all the way here and it happens in a back.
It has to be heartbreaking, really.
Yeah.
And that we're not saying somebody made a mistake. Stuff happens.
Well, we weren't back there.
We weren't.
We weren't back there. Now, we got 24 minutes. We got to roll through this. I'll say overall, I thought the bareback horses were weak and uneven. I mean, we talked about this last year. The livestock directors picked the pins, but I did not think that the horses were what they should have been in the bareback ride. There were a couple, which makes them uneven, which I think is the worst thing that can happen at the NFR.
Let's ask Ote a little bit. Let's talk about the bulldogging really fast. One thing I noticed sitting there watching was that Dirk Tavener had a lot of runs on the Hazen side.
Yeah, I didn't go back and look and count, but at least 4, if not 5 guys he's hazing for. A couple different horses. He's making horse changes, but that's probably one of the most important jobs out here in the steer wrestling is the hazing side, and it's gotten more important as the years went on because the start is so fast and quick, and what we talked about earlier, that back end comes up, and so hazing's very important here. If you don't get your hands on them, you have no chance for money, but you try to find the best steer wrestling horse you can find, and you try to find the best hazers, and Dirk's proven here the last 2 or 3 years he's one of the best, so guys notice and see that, not just me. I mean, obviously that's why he's here hazing for 5, 6 different guys.
So Will won the round. He was 3-7. Clayton Haas, past NFR steer wrestler, hazed for him. And Clayton hazed for others.
I think he hazed for Dakota as well.
Okay. But
they rode, and that's real important, the steer wrestling horse. They rode Jarrett McGraw, Winston McGraw's steer wrestling horse, Swamper, and he showed his worth last night.
Right.
I mean, he stepped up, and they both placed on him, so that's going to make a big difference this week. I was fortunate enough to ride some of the better horses here some years, and then a couple years we was kind of mediocre, and that makes a big difference in this building.
Yeah, and there were incidents or examples last night where the steer beat the hazer, and the guy just can't get his hands on him. So
yeah.
It's tough. And the thing about hazers is it is a thankless job. Nobody talks about it when you're right there where you're supposed to be, and the 1 out of 100 that you miss is all anybody talks about, right?
Hazers and pickup men, you don't notice them until they make a mistake.
Anyway,
cool.
Shall we roll to the team roping, because it was kind of fun that the defending world champions T. Wade and Wesley Thorpe jumped out and won the round. 3-7, just like this. I mean, for a steer wrestling run and a team roping run to be both 3-7, think about team roping. 2 guys roping a steer in 3-7. I mean, that's kind of insane. But
are you saying it's harder
Can you imagine? I'm just saying that 2 guys have to do their job in 3-7 is nuts. But those guys.
Oh, if you'd have been a team roper, you'd been more talented.
They came in, second behind Egu Squeeza and Levi Lord, who went out last night. That was, too bad. All those guys will, of course, be notoriously dangerous in the go-rounds. But Tyler and Wesley, really cool that they're here to defend their titles.
Well, you don't know that they're out.
I'm not saying they're out at all. Speed Williams, he's going to be honored tonight as the Vegas NFR icon.
The point is in the average.
They're out of the average.
Yeah,
they're not out of the contention.
Well, they might not be out of the average if every one of the 15 guys misses one, right? I'm doing this for our
You're stepping on my toes.
Our non-team roping geniuses here. I'm asking a question. If every one of the guys, correct me if I'm wrong, if every one of the teams misses one, then the average is reset.
To finish my sentence, please. Speed Williams will be honored tonight with Rich Skelton as the Vegas NFR icon. Joe B, Speed, and Rich this year, the Vegas NFR icons. Speed Williams was famous. They won 8 gold buckles in a row. He was famous for something would happen in the first round. We got to where we laughed about it. They would go out in the first round almost every single time. Like, he would lose his rope. He would miss. His horse would do something. It got to be laughable, but it got to be par for the course. So that's where Egu Squeeze and Lord, no problem.
They're not necessarily out.
Absolutely not.
That's all I was asking.
But I think it really is cool.
Ooh, she's spicy this morning. Did you not get her coffee?
I got her a double shot in a
in the oat cup.
There.
That's the oat cup.
But here's a really interesting point. I think it's cool that T. Wade and Wesley Thorpe are both here on this year's Horses of the Year. And, okay, Tyler, this is the horse, Spur, the head horse of the year, that they won the world on last year that belongs to Tyler. But Wesley Thorpe did something interesting in a gamesmanship move. He hauled in, he has what he says is the best horse he's ever had, his black horse, at home in the pasture, and he brought a fellow 2-time world champion team roper Patrick Smith's this year and 3 straight years Hill Horse of the Year Turbo, and that's like tossing out pride of ownership, and it's also saying, I'm going to get on the best one here. I'm going to have to pay the guy to ride him out of what I win, but the gold buckle is in everybody's sights. And so he got off of his own amazing horse to get on what he thought would be the best one here, and looked pretty smart about it last night, right?
Yeah. The other thing before we move on from the team roping, T. Wade, they were holding the record in the 4 round. He had set it twice at a 4-0. So he broke his own record on the backside with a 3-7, and 4-0 had held the first round record forever, and he had done it twice with a different partner.
I've always thought that calling something a record for a go-round is one of the lamest, weakest statistics we have. Do you think that's lame? I mean, to me, it's like, oh, you were the fastest in the first round or the 8th round.
Okay, because in rodeo, you guys, it only matters if you're really good a lot. Why can't it matter
That's
if you
absolutely
kick
not
ass?
the point.
No, it's all about the average. You timed event people.
The fastest run at the NFR, it is irrelevant. The record in the team roping is 3-3. It's irrelevant which round that happened.
It's irrelevant that they, on the first night, with all their jitters, were able to do it 0.3 of a second faster than anybody else has ever done it. You're right, it's irrelevant.
Let's move on. I know I'm right.
All right, here we go. Bronc riding. Is that where we're going next?
Sure. Shocker.
Yeah. Zeke is...
I think he'll go down as long as he stays healthy and he's wanting to rodeo. Now, if he wants to go back and retire, go to the ranch, it's not going to happen. But, I mean, I told Kendra when we all do our fantasy picks, fantasy rodeo, and I went through every event, and of course I'm gonna guess right off the top of my head that 99.5% of the people picked Tyler Wagensback just because he's cheap this year and his record here. But my first pick was Zeke Thurston. I'm like, to me, I think he'll go down with more world championships as long as he wants to go. He just is, in my opinion, a step ahead of everybody. He rides the rank ones, he rides the good ones, and he does it with authority. I mean, when you watch him, it's like, to me, he's head and shoulders above the rest. I mean, there's some great bronc riders, don't get me wrong, but Zeke is just ahead of the pack.
He uses a pretty sticky rosin on his shafts. That's a little bit different than like the Etbauers. But Zeke is very good, and I think he's mentally collected all the time, which I think is a key at this place. You know, Zeke and all, when it counts, and we say that, the quarterback for your favorite football team, you know, you love them when they have to do it, and they can.
Yeah.
And that's Zeke.
Well, tomorrow we're having Billy Etbauer as a guest, who has 5 world titles. And of course, Casey Tibbs and Dan Mortensen have 6. So here's Zeke. He has 4 PRCA world titles, 4 Canadian titles. But like Ote said, I mean, he's young. He's kind of a dominant figure. How many might he end up with? Very likely to pass Dan and Casey in the gold buckle count.
Zeke's pretty cool. On to the tie-down roping.
Woo!
Yeah, it was interesting, but it was good for me because I have Riley in Pro Fantasy. But Seth, I thought the tie-down was a little soft. I mean, you know, I just wouldn't have guessed that a 7-0 would win the first round. Now that, I'm not saying I can do it. I can't do it in 65 minutes.
I thought the 7 flat was an extraordinary run. What to me was like, it was a shocker. John Douch put 2 wraps on his calf, tied him. It wasn't like where sometimes when a calf gets up, before they throw their hands in the air, I'm like telling Ote, he's getting up, you know. And he did everything right to be 7-5, and his calf got up. That was a little hard to watch. Marty Yates went right after John Douch, put 1 wrap on in the first round. The calf immediately pulls a leg, and I mean, there went Marty's head back, and I'm like, holy smokes. And he was going to be A1, so I'm just sure he had a hard time sleeping last night, probably. But I mean, it's easy to, you know, I'm sure they feel it. You know, will this one take the tie? Will this one time, will this work? And 99% of the time it probably would have worked. But then when that does happen in the first round in this event, that's rough. We should mention that there were some yellow flags. Yeah,
I was going to say, we might not get through all the disciplines because we're limited to an hour here, but I do want to go back. There were 4 reviews last night. Remember, earlier on the podcasts, we talked with Knowles about they've got judges, they're looking at reviews, they're looking at them real time, right then, which is what they should be doing. Almost before the guy even's done, they shouldn't have an answer. And I want to go back to the bronc riding. Lefty Holman missed him out. And they looked at it, and they confirmed within about 2 or 3 seconds, I mean, that fast, that Lefty actually missed his horse out in the bronc riding. And, you know, I looked at it on replay. Now, I saw the right side. Again, I don't know if it was the left. I just don't know. On the right, it looked clean to me. But again, it's always hard.
Yeah, and we were on the right side of the arena, and we seen the replay. They threw the flag on the left side. And I thought maybe when they showed the replay, they would show a different angle, but they didn't.
They did.
The only one you could see was the right, and he obviously, in my opinion, marked him out on the right. I couldn't see the left, so we maybe
but
hopefully
it's
the
a
replay
professional
officials
sport. I'm going to get a little critical on the production stuff, right? For one, in the bareback riding, why is it that you're bucking horses and not so fast that we don't even know the score for the guy before? Like, nothing irritates me worse than halfway through the next ride at the Super Bowl and you're finding the score. That's distracting, even if you've been in rodeo since I was 3, right? It's way better to understand what the mark is, right, as a fan. And I know that the name of the game is go as fast as you can, but come on.
Yeah, I thought when we're talking about the reviews, Zach Youngblood and Kincaid Henry, they threw the flag on them for I'm not sure what they call it. It's a jerk down.
Jerk down.
But interesting, because I was worried. I'm like, oh shoot, is that a no time? No, it's a fine. I don't know how much the fine is, but it's the fine the first time. If you do it again, it's a disqualification, correct? That's my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so...
You don't want to know my opinion on that, but...
Okay, well, anyway, so...
But I thought there was another jerk down.
That didn't get called?
That didn't get... Now remember, they don't review stuff that's not flagged. So all of you at home, if they don't throw the flag, right, they're still looking at it, but nothing can happen. They'll probably send notes to the judging team that, hey, those guys missed this, but they can't overrule, like in the NFL, a call on the field. They can't call down there and go, hey, he jerked him over.
Right.
Right?
But it is a very fine line, and what that guy with the flag in his hand is looking for is it straight over backwards? Because sometimes there's a very fine line, and if a calf hits on his shoulder, it is not considered a jerk down. So,
and that's what Ote said earlier. I said, I thought there was a fourth, and he said, no, he was...
There was one that only one of the judges threw a flag.
Hey, are you on this show?
I'm just helping.
Thanks for helping. What do you got?
So there was one run where only one of the judges watching for it threw a flag, but to actually be called a jerk down, both guys have to throw the flag.
Really?
There's a judge in each corner down there that have yellow flags.
Well, that way they can see the angle.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, but I still say perception's reality. If you're jerking something over, the fact is that what is this flag for? Is it for the safety of the animal? Is it for the fans? Is it for the perception?
To me, it's that we're policing our own sport, and we have to do that in 2024. We're being proactive. We're going to police our own sport, and
when you jerk something over and they're 4 feet, leave the ground, flag them. I don't care if they come
we'll
down
send
on
Roy
their
Duval to your
shoulder
door.
or dead on the spine, or come on.
Okay, let's talk about...
I'm seriously annoying Kendra today, everybody.
Haley Kinsel out first last night on Sister, the blonde bomber. Okay, so she wins the round. Amazing, 13:38. But I would also say, I know that you're going to, before we get off here, point out me being the cellar dweller in the tattoo league, but let me just point out part of why I am. I bet on Cassie Mowry for sentimental reasons because of all the things that have happened. We're not going to make it to that today, but during the course of the week when she goes to winning rounds, we will. But anyway, Cassie Mowry and the Horse of the Year Jarvis, she hits the first barrel, major stumble on the second barrel. And her time, she would have been 13:34 with that major stumble on the second barrel. Just saying. I know I'm sucking in the tattoo league after one night, which...
We'll talk about that. You're really down there.
But congratulations to Haley. But I'm just saying...
But they switched how they switched the order of how they get to run. This was the first year that the number one got the top of the ground.
And we talked about that several podcasts ago, how they were doing it this year.
And so that kind of changes history, right? On your first round, how did Haley do her first round?
For having the records in the round.
Which
exactly.
is more support to my fact that it makes not a shit.
It's terrible.
Let's go on to the bull riding.
On to the bull riding. Now, no surprise that Haley Kinsel on that horse on top of the ground did good, but it was a fast barrel race. It was a fast barrel race.
You know, and going back to talking about earlier in this podcast, talk about the runs getting faster in every event. And what really made me realize that, I watched a special year or two or three ago they did on Christy Peterson. I thought Bozo was one of the most fantastic barrel horses I'd ever seen. And they showed her, and she was winning rounds like with 14:20, 14:23. I remember last time maybe Mary Walker was here, she was 13:90 and didn't get a check. So that's how much faster.
But we had the mad scientists on yesterday, and they're just making copies of these horses, right? And they're cloning these things and refining the genetics.
Is it also possible that as everything has evolved and being fine-tuned, that the dirt, that the ground has also evolved in where it's a faster track? Is that not?
The very best ground guy in the country, Randy Spraggins, is here. That's just a fact.
Right, but I'm saying the ground surely is better in 2024 than it was in 2014, than it was in
I think what it took Spraggins a little while to learn, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the concrete, the temperature of the concrete, every day that dirt changes. People don't realize that. Because temperature and moisture and humidity and lack of humidity changes it. Well, I think Spraggins is starting to figure out that on day one, this is going to happen, given all the conditions being the same. So I think that's why we've seen him improve the ground every year.
It's also another reason why which round you set a record in makes zero importance. But anyway, so bull riding.
Typical for a woman. She's going to make sure she
I'm going to rub your nose
on
in
my
it.
head.
Okay, so Trey Kimsey wins the round last night. He broke his leg this year. So he was 87 and a half. I walked into the press room right after the bull riding, right ahead of him, and it's like, imagine being Trey Kimsey and the shadow that you walk in when you have your brother Sage. Trey Kimsey, good for him to step up to the spotlights on center stage. And
he rode good. He hasn't always rode as good as he's riding now. I mean, he sat right up there and rode. I predicted they would ride 10 of those bulls in that pen, and they rode 9. I was very surprised at a couple guys that got TJ Gray, who's, this is what starts to separate people. We'll see how he reacts, right? Because he's a phenomenal bull riding athlete, but he just got beat. And you can't win a gold buckle by getting beat out, right? And I picked him in one of my leagues because he's that good, but he just flat got beat out. You're supposed to win on cookies and cream. You're supposed to win on a bunch of those bulls. And I like it because guys rode bulls, right? We've been to the NFR where there's nothing worse than nobody riding any bulls. They rode bulls. All of them were, it was true. If you stubbed your toe, you would get thrown off. If you rode well, like you should ride here, it was an 87-point ride. So I thought overall the bull riding was clean and good. I was surprised at TJ Gray. Now, a little drama. Go back real quick because we've only got a couple minutes and we got to go over the Tattoo League. But I will say this. Have you heard that the Steiner clan is a little upset?
Do tell.
Yeah, the Steiner clan, and again, I'm hearing this third party, so this is not fact, but it is pretty fun rumor. The Steiner clan is a little irritated with everybody in the PRCA because they think that they're trying to set it up that Rocker doesn't win and Hayes does. So, and I don't know why or where that's at. I mean, the pin of horses, like I said in the bareback riding, were a little off in my opinion. But we'll follow that story. But I heard there were some pretty good rumblings from the Steiner family.
I'll say this though, that kid is still just a kid, and his reaction to things happening his maturity from one year to the next is very noticeable. And remember, his first year here, everybody on television and in person could read his lips, and it wasn't pretty. He contained himself very well last night.
Yeah, he started his bareback riding from a professional level. He wasn't as wild with his feet on his first run because he realizes the aggregate matters. Now, real quick, before we get off, we're going to hit our sponsor, Pro Fantasy Rodeo. If you didn't set up on the whole deal, the 10 teams, now what you get to do on round 2 is you can sign up for daily. You can win 10 grand on the aggregate. You can win about 3,500 a day. It's $15 to play. And here's what I thought was cool. You know how we get 550,000 to play with? Well, in daily you get 650. So you get another 100 grand. How many times have you sitting there going, man, if I had 100 grand because I want him and I can't get him, do I want him? So go to profantasy.com. Try to play this daily game. It's fun. Now, Kendra, Ote, and I are in the Tattoo League. Got to talk about this.
Of course, rub my nose in it. Go ahead.
So, the current leaderboard for the Tattoo League has Kendra, you're 28 out of 30. What's interesting, now, Ote, I think you're, what did I tell you, 26?
24.
Well, here's what's interesting, how it works in the Tattoo League. The winner gets to decide the tattoo for the loser. Lucia Legacy, that's the code name for mine, we're currently sitting 4th. You can flip me off all you want, but I might be putting an emoji in the middle of your back when this is over.
A piranha?
No, I'm starting to think about the tattoo that you're gonna have. I don't have it, but it's coming.
Yes, last night, if you could miss one out, hit a barrel, like all the things happen. But remember what I said early on, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So we'll see you in round 10.
I agree, but it's fun. I've got to get it while I can. I know the rounds don't matter. The records and the rounds don't matter.
True.
And winning right now doesn't matter, but I still am currently 4th and you're 28th. So, anyway, well, we're an hour into it. We haven't heard anything from Greg. Greg, do you have any brilliant insight you want to lay on us before we sign off?
Not yet. I'm just trying to catch up with everything before I get going here.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ote. Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you, Tom.
I hope you have a beautiful day.
I hope you have a
We're going to
blessed
hug
day.
it out when this is over, okay?
Absolutely.
You come back. We're back tomorrow at the rally right here. It's No Spin Rodeo. Thank you, Ride Pass. Thank you, Cowboy Channel Plus. Thank you to Cowboy Commons. We'll see you tomorrow.
When you go down.